Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. Shh. Good morning. Thank you. Hi, Jared. What a wonderful buzz here this morning. Good morning. My name is Su-Ling Ching, and it is my honor to be the President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. On behalf of Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, the Ottawa Board of Trade, and the Ottawa Business Journal, welcome to the Mayor's Breakfast. I am joined this morning by my co-presenter, Michael Curran, who is the president and publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal, our premier business media outlet. Good morning, Michael. We're thrilled to be gathered here together in our beautiful City Hall in downtown Ottawa. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We honor the peoples and land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. I want to say good morning and thank you to our Ottawa Board of Trade board members who've been able to join us this morning. Thank you to Priya Ballou, Robert Réaume, John Proctor, Riaz Sidi, and Brendan McGinty. Thank you for your ongoing steadfast leadership in our business community. Yeah, sure. I would like to acknowledge as well the OBOT ambassadors, Linda McCallum, John Nelson, Aidan Dumont, Jeff Snyder, David Dunlop, Walter Noble, David Wellahan, Jared Goldsmith. Thank you all for being here today and for continuing to volunteer with the Board of Trade to welcome our new members and ensure that they maximize their benefits. And of course, thank you to all of the OBOT members, partners, and volunteers for making sure that Ottawa has a strong voice of business. I'd like you to join me in welcoming this morning the Honourable Mona Fortier, MP for Ottawa-Vanier, as well as our City Council members, Councillor Hill, Councillor Carr, Councillor Brockington, Councillor Dudas, Councillor King, and Councillor Kitts. Thank you all for being here this morning. I would like to make a special welcome this morning for our friends from the Embassy of Egypt and from the Embassy of the Republic of Korea. And welcome to Jesse Card and our friends from Youth Ottawa. Thank you for being here this morning as well. And I wish to acknowledge the pillar partners of the Ottawa Board of Trade who could join us here this morning, Enbridge Gas and Sun Life Financial. Thank you for elevating the importance of the advocacy and economic development work of the Board of Trade on behalf of all of our business community. And I would like to say a very special welcome to our special guest today, Goldy Hyder. I'm always happy for the chance to spend some time with you. And I can still remember when we first met, you probably don't remember, but Ian Sherman forced me to interview you post-election in 2019, a mere few days after I started my role. And I had no idea then how often our paths would cross. And it's been an honor to work with you, and I want to thank you for your leadership representing the country and also for the work that you have done to make sure we have a better future for all of us. You and your team have always been here for the Board of Trade and for the Ottawa community, and we're so grateful to have you here this morning as well. Thank you. Last but not least, it's great to see all of you here, our business leaders, elected officials, and community champions gathered over breakfast to connect, to learn, and to address a little thing like the future of our economy here in Ottawa. It's not your average weekday morning, but we are facing some real challenges here in Ottawa. The volatility of our largest trading partner and the looming threats of tariffs have created uncertainty for all of us. But there is good news, and that is that we're not facing this alone. The Board of Trade is working closely with colleagues across the country, many of whom are on the ground in the U.S., like Goldy is, working with our political leaders to advocate and negotiate for the best possible outcome for Canadian businesses and for Canada as a whole. And while that work is happening, luckily we don't have to wait around to see what the outcome is. Today, right now, we all have a real part to play here at home, strengthening our own economy. That is our greatest opportunity to stand united, business and community and political leaders, consumers, businesses large and small, and governments, to align in accelerating the policies, partnerships, and priorities that will unlock our economic potential. Because at the end of the day, our competitive edge is not our geography, it isn't even our industry, it's all of you in this room and our ability to collaborate. So yes, this is your official call to action. Get involved with the Board of Trade, become a member, a volunteer, lend your voice. This is a platform for us all to shape Ottawa's future. We have some important conversations coming up, and I want to personally invite you to our Ottawa Strong City Building Summit. This is where we'll dive deep into our regional economy, emerging opportunities, and how we can work together to seize them. It's going to be a powerful day of information, interaction, and inspiration, and we need all of you there. You're also invited to be a part of our upcoming Capital Magazine, which is a tool that we have designed to help you tell Ottawa's story. Now, something else is also on the horizon that matters to all of us, and that is a federal election, a big one. The decisions made will have long-lasting impacts on our democracy and our economy, and I implore each of you to be informed, to be engaged, and be focused on the candidates who demonstrate the leadership values and priorities aligned with both our democratic principles and our economic growth agenda. In the coming weeks, the Board of Trade will keep you informed about how the party platforms align with our own priorities so that you will have the tools to make the decisions that you need to with confidence. Finally, let me say how grateful I am for the strength of Ottawa's economic ecosystem, the Mayor's Economic Council, the newly launched Ottawa Unlimited, the Downtown Champions Table. These collaborations are proof that Ottawa knows how to work together and that, my friends, we have a competitive edge. So let's stay focused, stay connected, and most of all, stay ambitious, because in Ottawa, we're just getting started. Thank you. As we kick off this morning's breakfast, I would like to say thank you to the sponsors who make it possible. Our lead sponsor, Hydro Ottawa, our presenting sponsor, Algonquin College, the Westin Ottawa, RBC, Edelman, Commissionaires Ottawa, Enbridge, Ottawa's Senators Hockey Club, our global partners, Oakwood and the Casino Lac Limi, our AV partner, Ottawa Print Services, our gift speaker partner, Eamon Hardin, our coffee sponsor partner, who I really was grateful for today, Capital Office Interiors, and our breakfast sponsor, La Cité. A big round of applause for all of our sponsors for this morning's event, please. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium our presenting sponsor from Algonquin College, President and CEO Claude Brûlé. Claude.
Well, thank you very much, Suling. Good morning. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. As Suling said, my name is Claude Brûlé. I'm President and CEO of Algonquin College. Mayor Sutcliffe, members of City Council, Honorable Mona Forte, welcome. The directors, ambassadors, and members of the Ottawa Board of Trade, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, and our guest this morning, Goldy Hyder. It's a pleasure to be with all of you this morning as a proud sponsor of the Mayor's Breakfast Series. When I look around the room, I see so many familiar faces, leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, and friends of Algonquin College. Many of you are proud alumni, employers of our graduates, or partner in our many initiatives. Your ongoing collaboration and support helps us shape the programming to meet your evolving needs and the needs of the region. After a year of record enrollment in graduating students, Algonquin College is experiencing some strong headwinds due to long-standing provincial funding decisions, as well as more recently, but equally impactful, federal immigration policy changes affecting international enrollment, particularly significant reductions in student study visas and the number of programs eligible for postgraduate work permit. As you may have already seen in the news, we have begun the process of implementing mitigating measures to address the significant financial shortfalls that we're facing, pressures that I know are similarly faced by most other colleges and universities in Ontario and across the country. As we continue to find ways to adapt and strategically reposition our operations, we remain relentless in our advocacy for changes, both with the province and at the federal level, to help sustain a strong public post-secondary sector. And we're hopeful that as a result, greater attention will be given to addressing the current situation from our provincial government, recognizing the vital role our graduates play in driving Ottawa and Ontario's economic success. Now, despite these ongoing challenges, Algonquin College remains nimble, innovative, and responsive in our steadfast commitment to investing for the future. We continue to introduce new and exciting programs that align with industry needs and support local employers like you. Later this year, we're looking forward to opening 5 new science labs, ensuring that learners have access to state-of-the-art facilities that equip them with the skills to thrive in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics-related careers. We're also deepening our partnership with the business communities, like Porter Airlines and the Real Estate Council of Ontario, and aligning our programming with labor market demands, helping to bridge the talent gap in key industries. One of the champions of this philosophy is today's keynote speaker, of course, Goldy Hyder, a leader who embodies the spirit of giving back. Algonquin College had the privilege of awarding Goldy an honorary degree in 2022. The example set by Goldy reminds us that true leadership is about creating opportunities, fostering mentorship, and inspiring the next generation to step forward with confidence. As we look ahead to the future of Ottawa's workforce, collectively, we must continue to nurture bold, visionary leadership, embrace innovation, and ensure that education remains accessible and relevant to the need of our economy. Algonquin College is proud to play a role in that journey. To our partners, our alumni, and our community members, thank you for your continued support. Together, I know that we will ensure Ottawa remains a vibrant hub of talent, innovation, and opportunity. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Thank you, Claude, and thank you for the work that you've been doing to ensure that we have a vibrant workforce and tomorrow's leaders. It's now my pleasure to welcome to the podium our host this morning, His Worship Mayor Mark Sutcliffe.
Thank you, Su Ling, and I just want to take a second to thank Su Ling and her team and the members of the Board of Directors of the Board of Trade for all of their amazing work, their hard work, their collaboration, their partnership with the community during this very challenging time for our local economy. So Su Ling, thank you for everything you're doing and to your team as well. Merci à tous de vous être joints à nous ce matin. C'est un plaisir de vous accueillir à l'Hôtel de Ville ce matin. I'm really delighted to welcome all of you here this morning and to see so many people here today. This is obviously a very challenging time for our community and for our country. And I talk all the time about Team Ottawa, and this is also a moment for Team Canada. And I, you know, when you think about what's happening right now, I don't think any of us ever imagined a year ago, 2 years ago, that we would be facing these kinds of threats from our what we thought was our best friend and our best trading partner, but here we are. And what I'm encouraged by is the you know, what I see in the community, what I see throughout the country, when I see just how unifying this has become, how people are working together, people are being creative, people are partnering with each other to find solutions. So just before I welcome Goldy up to talk about some of those challenges, I wanted to give a quick update on a few things that are happening at this very busy and interesting time in our city. We will be talking about the federal election this morning, and as you may know, I met with Prime Minister Mark Carney the morning after he was elected Liberal leader. We talked then, as we did in a previous meeting together, about Ottawa's priorities and the Fairness for Ottawa campaign that my colleagues on Ottawa City Council and I launched last year. And we, as a council, will continue to fight for Ottawa's fair share. No matter who the next government is, we will continue to make sure that Ottawa is getting its fair share from other levels of government. Je discute régulièrement avec la mairesse de Gatineau et je prévois qu'au cours de la semaine prochaine, nous présenterons une liste commune des priorités pour la région de la capitale nationale pour la prochaine élection. I've been interacting regularly with the mayor of Gatineau, and I expect that within the next week we'll be introducing a shared list of priorities for the National Capital Region for the federal election campaign. So stay tuned for more on that. And as Su Ling mentioned, we continue to bring together the Mayor's Economic Council, including the Board of Trade and the leaders of all the other major organizations that drive economic development in our city as we address our rapidly evolving economic situation. I've been visiting small businesses and presenting them with special decals that say "Shop Local, Buy Canadian." And we have some here today if you'd like one, if you want to promote that in your place of business, that would be great. The city has created this logo with that is promoting the idea of shopping local and buying Canadian, something we all need to be paying close attention to right now. Nous continuons à faire tout ce qui est possible à la ville pour que la vie reste abordable pour nos résidents. We're continuing to do everything possible at the city to keep life affordable for our residents. As you know, we've been working hard to find savings and efficiencies in the city budget. And in the past 2 years, we've already identified $200 million in savings for Ottawa residents. That's the equivalent of $400 per household at a time when a lot of our residents are really stretched to the limit. And now we've introduced a new initiative to reduce red tape at City Hall and ensure that less time and money is spent on bureaucracy and your tax dollars are generating even more value. And I want to thank my colleagues on Ottawa City Council, David Brown, Alan Hubley, Catherine Kitts, and Stephanie Plante for joining me as we work towards reducing red tape and improving our services, and we will keep you updated on the progress of that task force. I also want to mention a couple of other good things that are happening in the community. First of all, our Ottawa Senators are playing really well right now, and they're in a playoff spot at the moment, and we're excited about that. Could be for the first time this spring in 7 years we will have playoff hockey in Ottawa, which would be amazing for our city and amazing for our local economy as well. So let's go Senators. Also, the team from the Ottawa Airport is here today, and next week, of course, the service, the Air Canada service to Heathrow in London will be relaunched, and that's a big win for our city. That's something that the community has been telling me about for a long time, and it was almost a year ago that I went to London with representatives from the airport and Ottawa Tourism, and met with businesses there and event organizers who were talking about bringing events to the nation's capital. And part of that trip was to highlight the need for this flight. So we're glad that Air Canada, with the support of the airport and Ottawa Tourism, is moving forward with that important link. That's a big win for our city. So some good things are happening. So I'm delighted to welcome Goldy as our guest today. Goldy, of course, is the President and CEO of the Business Council of Canada. We're going to be talking about the future of the Canadian economy, the Ottawa economy. And I've known Goldy for many years through his community leadership in our city, which was recognized by Algonquin College. Goldy's been a board member of many different organizations in the city. And since he became CEO, the Business Council has been working very hard to advance a stronger, more competitive economy that benefits all Canadians. And just last Friday, Goldy made a powerful statement: the time to act is now. He emphasized that Canada has the talent, has the resources, has the entrepreneurial spirit to lead the world, and that we just need leadership that will take swift and decisive action to help make that happen. So I agree with Goldy about that. We can't afford to wait while other nations move ahead. It's time for a clear strategy that prioritizes economic growth, prosperity, and opportunities for all Canadians. I know we'll be talking about that a lot during the federal election campaign, but we need to move beyond reactive policies and embrace a shared vision for a dynamic and prosperous future. So I'm very excited to talk about all of that with our guest this morning, the President and CEO of the Business Council of Canada. Please join me in welcoming Goldy Hyder. There's a mic right there. Welcome, Goldy. Thank you so much for doing this. And you know, I know a lot of the people in the room today are business owners and leaders of organizations in the community, important organizations in the community. And I think I speak for almost all of them when I say, you know, we're worried about the future, right? We've never anticipated dealing with these kinds of issues, and you know, I'm an optimist by nature, but I feel anxiety over what's going on right now. So, what keeps you up at night? What are you worried about?
Well, look, first of all, let me thank you, Mayor, for the kind invite, and I'm humbled by the presence of so many great Canadians here. And I also want to just, given that we're in a RIP period, just recognize those that either have served in public service or serving in public service today, including those either in elected roles or in diplomatic community roles. We need good people in public life, and it's a difficult time to do that. So thank you for those of you who are doing that, and we appreciate it. The answer to your question is not what you think it probably is. It's not the president. I've accepted that we are all in a global TV reality show, and we're all characters in it. And every day there's a new script and a new plot. And you can get stressed about it, or you can just go for the ride. I'm going for the ride. I'm not going into what I call the washing machine cycle of what goes on. You have to pay attention to not what he says, but also what he doesn't say. I remain an optimist like you. I would say almost every CEO I've ever met with is eternally optimistic about things. We're going to have a trade deal, and we're going to get to one. It's just a question of when, not if. I ran into Mr. Chrétien a few months ago, and he said, look, Goldy, there's nothing new going on here. The Americans like to negotiate all the time. They must win in every negotiation. So the only thing we have to figure out is what's the win you can live with. And I think those are wise words. We're going to get there. So I'm less stressed and anxious about that. The answer to your question is really us. And I say that because I love my country. I came here when I was 7. I do think it's the best country in the world. But I also think, much like a parent has to give tough love to their kids, it's fair game to give tough love to the country that you call home. And what I've seen is a comfortable and complacent country. I say with respect, a country born on third thinks it hit a triple. And we've gotten away with that for over 150 years. It surprises people when I say, thank you, Mr. President, for doing what no one has been able to do in Canada, which is to galvanize Canadians, east to west, French to English, urban to rural, Leafs and Sens fans, together, to be able to say, we got to get our act together. And so what's keeping me up at night is, can we do that? Can we actually respond to that call? I think Canadians have the emotion. I think Canadians have the passion. God knows we're riled up. We're ticked off. But we have to be careful, because that emotion has to be applied in a controlled way. Okay? Like a lot of people want to talk about hockey in these analogies. I say, you know, we can beat anybody on the ice, and we certainly can beat the Americans on the ice, as we saw a little while ago, because it's a 5-on-5 hockey game. But the thing about the economic war, the economic game, the economic battle, is it's 10-on-1. They have 10 on the ice, we have 1. And so I recognize that what Prime Minister Carney said the other day, which I've been saying and told I was unpatriotic to saying it, but it's like, we are not going to be able to go into a tariff war with the G1 and come out alive if you think it's going to be sustained for a very long period of time. They're a $30 trillion economy. We're 3, I'm rounding up in both cases, but 30 to 3. So we need to have a strategy, and our strategy has to be what we call control the controllables. What can we control to change the trajectory of our country to being so reliant on the United States. And I want to make it very clear. I am not suggesting we get a divorce from the United States. We're in an abusive relationship, and we're hoping therapy will get us through it. But we're not physically moving. We're not moving out of the house. We are in the neighborhood of North America. We have to work with our friends in Mexico. We have to make the case for how we're going to strengthen this neighborhood. But you speak from a position of strength when you send the signal to the Americans that we're going to diversify. What I tell the American friends is, you're going to regret what you've done because you're going to pay full price for everything we sell you after we get our act together and we build the infrastructure to go east, to go west, to get the interprovincial trade. I mean, who had this on the bingo card in January 1, that we'd get rid of interprovincial trade barriers as much as we have in just 90 days? It took 40, 50 years, right? So there is a drive here. We're having a federal election. One of the things I would say is keeping me up is the importance of Canadians providing a clear mandate where the government can negotiate from a position of strength, which comes from a majority. And whoever they pick, I hope they give a strong, clear mandate for that government so that we're in a negotiation as we go forward with the USMCA in a position of strength.
All right, we'll talk more about the election campaign in a moment and what you'd like to see in terms of the discussion during the election campaign. But I agree with you about the idea that, you know, this is a wake-up call for the country, that we have effectively been like a business with one major client that represents a disproportionately large percentage of our revenue, and we've been counting on that, and now we have an opportunity to diversify. But what specific steps do you think we need to take, and how long is it going to take for us to get to a point where we are more resilient and more independent?
Yeah, that's a great question, because as I was saying, the approach we're taking is it's not minus the United States, it's US plus. Of course we're going to do business with America. They're the G1. We share a border. We have supply chain integrity for over 40 years built there. We have relationships. Cars go back and forth, 6, 7 times. We've got critical minerals. They're going to need all of that. We, of course, are going to do business with America. Many of my own members, I represent 170 CEOs of the largest companies in the country. Of course they have investments in America. And the odds are, in a 10x economy, if they have one employee here, they may have 10 in America, they may have 20 in Mexico, but they're a Canadian headquartered company, and they wave the Canadian flag. So it's America for sure, which is why we need to get a trade deal done. However, the plus, the pivot, is to be able to recognize that we have gotten in our own way to get the things that the world wants from us. I mean, you travel, I travel almost every day, and I'm certainly around the world a lot. All I hear from them is, what's wrong with you? What economy would make itself beholden to a single customer, right? 75% of your economy on any given day is relying on one customer. Now, we're their number one customer. We deserve to be treated better. There should be no question about that, but we are where we are. So we have got to get access to the market. Now, obviously, there's a lot of interest in Europe and all that. I'll be honest with you. If I had to put chips in a corner, it would be all in the Indo-Pacific. Market is huge, a young population. They need what we have. They need the LNG. They need the critical minerals. There's a long-standing relationship. My friend, our Korean ambassadors here, I'm a long-standing friend with the Japanese ambassador and the Indonesian ambassador and a number of others. They look at us and they say, we're ready to buy what you have, but you got to be able to get it to us. So to the credit of this government, it's too bad it took nationalizing a pipeline, but we had, at least that was done. That day, the barrel went up $6 in Canada. So that's not just benefiting Alberta. Alberta subsidizes a lot of things that go on in the rest of this country. So we all gain if we can sell our resources at full price. We talk a lot about critical minerals. They're in the ground. Most of them are in the ground. There's not even a road or a train track to the Ring of Fire. We communicate as if they're available in aisle 7 at Independent. Like, no, they're in the ground. And they're going to take 10 to 14 years under permitting. So can we move faster? Can we move quicker to get that out of the ground? Most high commissioners and ambassadors I meet have told their countries, we're going to be getting our critical minerals from Canada. And I break the news to them. How do you think that's going to happen? We need your help. We need you to tell our own governments, provincial and federal, that build the infrastructure east, west, and frankly, north, to be able to get those products to different markets. And we all gain. And as I said, America, you're going to have to pay more for stuff that we were giving you a discount on.
You mentioned we are going to continue to have a relationship with the United States, even a significant relationship with the United States. That's inevitable. But what's changing from your point of view? What's changing about America, and how is that going to impact the kind of relationship we have with the United States going forward?
So I think about this a lot because at the end of the day, they're the G1. Okay? I believe America has been trying to change since George Bush Jr. If it wasn't for 9/11, the agenda of that Republican Party under George Bush Jr. was effectively inward looking. It was time to withdraw. He wanted to be the education president. And then 9/11 happened, and as a result of 9/11, every president that followed, pretty much up until President Obama and the capturing of bin Laden, and then of course Afghanistan when President Biden was there and the withdrawal from there, it was consumed with the quote-unquote war on terror. But America has been trying. Remember, those who know your history, some people feel like we're in 1930 today. You know, America didn't want to go to war on behalf of the UK. I mean, if you're watching the Churchill series on Netflix, I highly recommend it. What Prime Minister Churchill did to get America in only happened because of Pearl Harbor. So America's not interested in being the quote-unquote policeman or policewoman of the world. They're trying desperately to get out of it. And so if America's changing, everybody changes because it all trickles down from there. Now, say what you will about this president. He's not a warmonger. He's a pacifist. He's a real estate guy. He's a transactional on all the real Greenland, Panama, Gaza, Canada. It's just all real estate. Okay? But he said, I want to cut my defense budget in half. I asked the Chinese and the Russians to do the same thing. So it's an opportunity in some ways for us in Canada to realize that we also need to respond to that change economically, but also on our own economic security and national security. So one of the things we've been pushing for, and many people have said, why is the head of a business council talking about NATO? We've been doing it for 3 years. My colleague, Trevor Neiman, has authored 2 amazing papers, extremely well received in the United States. I've been at the Five Eyes meeting with the FBI, MI5. Like, it's phenomenal because they realize we're the target for cybersecurity and for all of those kinds of things. So economic security and national security means you got to invest. So this election, you just saw a piece by Murray Brewster yesterday in the CBC talking about Canadians get this moment. We're going to have to spend on defense. So my message to Canadians is, yeah, you can talk with all due respect. We can talk about the red lights or the potholes or highways or gridlock or whatever. This is a serious time and a serious moment where we need to have the discourse elevated. We need more engagement from Canadians. I will predict today that we'll probably have one of the highest voter turnouts we've had. I looked it up the other day. Last election was 62%. It was 75 in 1988. I'm willing to bet it's going to be closer to 75 than it is 62. At least I sure hope so. Because if Canadians don't get involved now and have adult conversations to meet the seriousness of this moment, we're making life very difficult for the next generation.
What do you hope is the outcome of the federal election, not in terms of who wins, but in terms of where we go from here? What kind of conversation we have during the election campaign? You mentioned you'd like to see a strong mandate for whoever wins, a majority government, but what else do you want to see as the outcome?
Yeah, let me answer that this way. First of all, I'm raised in Alberta, 25 years in Alberta, and I just crossed 25 years in Ottawa. Okay? But you are where you're from, right? So with all due respect, my heart and soul is very much shaped by being a Western Canadian Albertan. I will tell you that as someone who interacts with premiers almost daily in some way, shape, or form, the Federation is more fragile than we think. It won't take much to kind of pull on a few threads here or there, and we could have a serious crisis. So I think we need to be very careful as we manage the risks of the tariffs and our response to the tariffs and how freely people throw out ideas for what other provinces should do so that my province doesn't have to do something tough. I think we have to elevate our discussion, and this is where, with all due respect, the absence of strong federal leadership in this transition period. We had a government, but it's not the same. We all know that. April 28th Canadians need to give endorsement to a Prime Minister and a government that says, you're the one we've chosen to help get us through both the navigation of the relationship with the Americans and more broadly with North America, but also making sure that Canada works together to do the things that we need to do. Because, as I said, you cannot blame Donald Trump for us being laggards on national defense. So what he would say is, what country outsources its sovereignty? What country outsources its national security? What country outsources the defense of its perimeter? You know, we've done that. They didn't make us do that. We just rode the ride of, hey, it's America. Of course they're going to back us up. That's over. That's over. And so we do need a government that is going to be able to bring Canadians to make tough choices, because you can't have it all. We can't spend on everything. So where's that additional, by the way, 2% is like yesterday's number. It's at least 3 as we go forward. It could be jumping up to 4. Okay? When I meet with, I just had dinner with the Arctic ambassadors, the 6 of them, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, and they were all like we're doing 4, 5, 6, Goldy. Like, you got to up your game. Not so much smaller GDP in fairness, but still, we have to find a way to do more. And there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for Ottawa in terms of building a defense industrial base. This is a country that actually doesn't have an industrial policy. We actually don't have the question, what do we want to be when we grow up? This moment is an opportunity for us to answer that question and then build the strategy to execute it, working in partnership with all layers of government, most importantly, bringing Canadians with you on this. Because I say one thing, one of the reasons I actually don't have trouble sleeping more often than not is I trust Canadians. I think Canadians are a smart group of people. We should never underestimate their collective wisdom. We should treat them with respect. We should give them the hard facts, and I'm fairly certain they'll come up with the right answer.
You mentioned interprovincial trade barriers. This is something that's been talked about for a long time, and it's very easy for people to throw out the idea of, we got to get rid of interprovincial trade barriers, but doing it is a lot harder than it sounds. So, and I raise this in particular because it's a uniquely local issue. There's no other place in Canada where there is one economic region that's divided by a provincial border. The 1.5 million people who live in the National Capital Region have a provincial border running through, and that creates obstacles for businesses on both sides of the Ottawa-Gatineau border. What's it going to take to actually do this?
What, sorry?
What's it going to take to actually eliminate those barriers?
Well, I think it's happening. I think the good news is it's happening. And I don't accept the premise that it's hard. Europe has, you know, one area. It's 27 countries, I think it is, right? You can do anything. The aviation is easier there. Telcos are easier there. Banking is, I mean, like, you can take a passport on a phone now all over Europe. Okay? When there's a will, there's a way. So it's not a question of having a will. We're being forced. And so I think the urgency, like, I've been talking about interprovincial trade barriers for a long time, including with our own premier here and many others. And it always gets to the Department of Finance, and then it goes like, wow, we're going to lose some liquor revenue, so we can't move forward. And then it dies. I was discussing this last night with, I'm on my way to Newfoundland tomorrow, and I was talking to the Premier last night saying, he said no to liquor, and he's trying to make the case as to why they're saying that and how the local jobs and all that. Believe me, there's not an ambassador or high commissioner who has not asked me with whom we have a trade agreement when they get here and their businesses are coming to do business in our country, and then they discover these things called interprovincial trade barriers, and they're like, what the heck are those? We have a free trade agreement with you, and now I'm being told that I have to, like, requalify, recertify, get a new permit. It's all cost. But I have a free trade agreement with your country, but it turns out you don't have one with yourselves. So I am encouraged that both the main political parties are talking about a single Canadian economy. Okay? The frustration to me, the peak was during COVID. If I fell down in Gatineau, I would be able to go see a nurse there. But if I were in Ottawa and we had a nurse shortage, that nurse could not come and see me over here. She's only qualified to see me in Quebec, but not in Ontario. Absurd. And so we've got to tear these things down. First aid kits in trucks, size of tires, lighting on vehicles, and you have to be stopped at borders. It's a make-work program, right? So they have to come down, and I think the benefit of that is well known. 4% of your GDP is trapped. Just for the record, we have 0.7% GDP today, growth forecasted. You get 4 just by getting out of your own way. So I think it's going to happen. I think it's a matter of time before all of them will go, but the momentum and the pressure is unstoppable.
Okay, I hope you're right. Let's talk about Ottawa, because you have a job that's national in nature, but you live and work in Ottawa. You care very deeply about this community. You've been here a long time. What can we do to address the challenges that our local economy is facing in particular? And here it's not just about the tariffs and the uncertainty of the Canada-US relationship. It's also about potential federal government downsizing, reducing the footprint in the downtown core of federal government offices. So there's a lot going on in Ottawa. What do you think we need to do to strengthen our local economy?
Well, let me say I love Ottawa. I love being here. My daughters were 0, 3, and 5 when we moved here. We've lived and become Sens fans and the whole bit. So the city is a great place to live. Nothing frustrates me more when newscasts say, Ottawa decided today to raise your... I'm like, Ottawa didn't decide that, people. The Parliament decided that. The government decided that. Not Ottawa. Leave Ottawa out of it. So I think the interesting thing about Ottawa is, as has often been said, there's more than one Ottawa. Right? There's this Ottawa around the Parliament precinct, and then there's the rest of Ottawa, particularly, as you go into Canada, you have a different business line there. We have, 2 universities, a great college system, polytechnics. We have, an airport that's growing. Krista's here, I know, and it's a great city to be in. But in some ways, we've got to figure out what we also want to be, right? Canadians, Canada's often looked at as the natural resource economy. We're blessed with natural resources, and we should just become a natural resource economy. I always say there's 2 strengths for Canada. The second is our human resources. I'm concerned that we're losing some of the consensus on immigration. I'm worried about our universities and foreign students and all that, because without that, we're not going to have a growing economy today. I think we're forecast to shrink 0.2% in 2025, which means your GDP will shrink. So, we have got to figure that out quickly, because the talent piece is essential to the future of our economy here in Ottawa and, frankly, in the country. You look at the 3 major AI centers in McGill and Waterloo and the University of Alberta in Edmonton. If you snooze, you lose. You've got to move quickly. You've got to be able to get the talent. You've got to be able to deploy that capital. You've got to be able to grow your businesses. And in Ottawa, I think there's an opportunity for us to be more than a public sector town. And I think there's obviously in any capital city you go to, the public sector is a large aspect of that. But I think the opportunity is really to continue to grow on the services side. We're not going to be able to compete. I think America's going to find this out. It's very hard to build things in countries in which the minimum wage might be $16 an hour. And you're up against someone who's making you an iPad for $3 an hour, or you're not going to be able to. So we got to figure out what are the services that we can really compete with. Build some of the hubs to do that. I think in some ways what we've seen from our federal government, I remember when Minister Baines called me during his launch of the supercluster program. And he said, Goldy, I'm going to put this thing out there. I really want your support. It's $900 million. He told me what the 5 things were. And I said, you know what? I must be in a good mood. Fine. I'll back you up. $900 million, not that much when you have, $200 billion budget. Let's try. We got to try. I think Ottawa has to think like that and kind of say, what are the 2 or 3 things that we want to double down on and incubate those and create the conditions for capital to form, talent to form. And then the secret here is you got to grow. The problem in Canada is our aspiration is to build a business to 10 million, sell it, buy a cottage in Muskoka, play golf. The ambition has got to meet that. And so why do we lose talent, Canadian talent? They go to America to scale. Say whatever you will about America. They reward risk, not punish it, and they scale, and they're never done until they're as rich as Elon Musk. Everybody wants to be Elon, okay? And so we have to have that ambition, but we have the secret sauce. We have great people. We have great culture. We have a brand still that, people say, wow, I like being Canadian. Let's play to the human resources strength here, create the policy framework and the conditions, which means good infrastructure, mobility, education system, the vibrancy of all of that, and a good partnership between business and government and academia and labor to say we're all in this together. I really am hoping that one of the things that comes out of this crisis we're in is we realize that we're all Canadian and that we should all be working. We can agree to disagree. My wife disagrees with me every day. But we don't get, we don't fight and divorce over it. Like, it's okay, we disagree. When did it become not okay to disagree? Let's do a better job in bringing people together to solve problems and set an ambitious goal for our city. And I think people like you are trying to do that, and you need the support of the business community and others to help you do that.
Let's talk about the future of downtown Ottawa. You work downtown. Your offices are downtown. I know you have strong feelings about this.
I'm about to get in trouble.
Yeah, so let's get into it. The Board of Trade's doing great work with their leadership on this issue. What do we need to do to revitalize downtown Ottawa at a time when fewer people are coming downtown to work?
Well, my friend, the former Minister of Treasury Board is here. She tried to help with something that she and I talked many times about. I get trouble for calling it return to work, but that's what it is, in my opinion. We need people back downtown. We need people to realize that a vibrant downtown is important to any city. And I got in trouble, and I know Michael's here and others here, Dan and everybody else here from OBJ, but I think might have been the most read story last year, if I recall correctly, that said I was nowhere in the world, right? Nowhere in the world have I seen in any capital anywhere what I see in Ottawa. And that's not a compliment, okay? Like, nowhere does it look like this. So we've got to figure out, when did we become, I'm entitled to my entitlements around here, and when we stop being Canadian? Like, the fact that surveys were done in the public service in which the response back was, I'm sure I'm going to get audited this year as a result of this, but the response back was, it's not my problem for the coffee shop to make it. Actually, it is. It is. That is your neighbor who took out a lease on Spark Street in December 2019, unbeknownst to them that a global pandemic was going to strike. And the lease was for a 10-year period. They hung on thanks to the government supports and the programs and their own capacity to do home delivery or whatever, and they got through it. And they were expecting you to come back. And I think there's a divide in society here. You are mayor of a city where I'm assuming 70, 80% of your employees probably have no choice but to show up to work. They're they're doctors, nurses, and police, and utilities, and, Bryce is here. Like, they have no choice. They don't get to do things from their computer at home. And so we're creating this societal divide where it's almost like the haves and the have-nots. I don't have to come to work. I have no choice but to go to work. And that resentment will build over time. It's still fragile, I'm telling you. People are not happy about this. And I think we as leaders, business leaders, political leaders, owe it to take the tough calls. And it's starting to happen. If you look around the world, I think Jeff Bezos has done it, Musk has done it, Jamie Dimon has definitely done it at JP Morgan and others, and they're unapologetic. Now, I had done a master's thesis in policy making in crisis, believe it or not. And two of the takeaways that I was talking about during COVID was, first and foremost, never make operational decisions permanent in a crisis. All you had to say during COVID was, these are the rules today, I can't tell you what they are tomorrow. I don't know if there'll be a variant, I don't know if there'll be a vaccine, I just know what the rules are for today. What happened is it dragged on so long because, with the greatest of respect, we outsourced the governing of our country to healthcare professionals. I trust them with healthcare, I actually don't trust them with the governing of my country, never mind my economy. But that's what we did. Okay? And their answer to everything was, stay home. Well, you can't do that. And so we've got to realize that we have to lead. The second thing that I recall from my thesis I was sharing back then is, the thing about man, very predictable. People do not change. All the crisis does is pause people for a while. But over time, the pendulum swings like this, and guess where it settles? All of these people who didn't want to come to work, they absolutely wanted to go to the bar. They wanted to go to the restaurant. They wanted to go to a play. They wanted to go to the Sens game. They wanted to fly. But work was dangerous. Those people I know. These people are strangers. I feel like we had to tell people, I'll be honest, some of my team are here. I went to work looking exactly like I do right now, except I had jeans on the bottom because, of course, we were on camera, so it didn't matter what I was wearing on the bottom. I went to work every day where there wasn't a lockdown. And guess what happened? People showed up at work, right? And I said to them, if you've got kids at home, if you're senior citizens, somebody's sick, don't come. I'm not being, selfish about this, don't come. But everybody else, I'm just letting you know I'm here. And all the incidental learning and so forth. We were just talking about this, and squeeze in a quick thing, because as you said, this is something I have strong points of view on. The challenge is actually the following. Executives never really went home. We're all executives. People are workaholics. They don't have a weekend or night. They're just always on. So we were working. Okay? Public servants, deputy ministers, they were working hard. In fact, one of the reasons I think so many retired, they were exhausted, because a small number carried us through this crisis while everybody else, took their lawn and took care of it at home or whatever they were doing. That one's going to get me in big trouble. Okay, fine. Maybe it was their pool. But you know what? We need to remind people, right? There's nothing wrong if you have policies that allow you to work from home or whatever the case might be. I get that. The issue is the young people are the ones who are missing out. Young people, like my own daughter, who sat in her bed for like 3 years. I won't tell you what she did and where she works, but let's just say it's in the public sector. And we would argue every day. Literally every day. I'd be like, you're not learning anything, you're falling behind. I explained to her what, just incidental things that happen in office and all of that. Eventually, that group had FOMO. They started to realize that people who went back to work got promotions. And the people who went back to work didn't get laid off or didn't get their hours cut, because it's hard to do that to someone you're having a water cooler conversation with versus this abstract person on the other end, okay? And so they started to go back. Here's the problem. In private sector and in public sector, middle management stayed home. They're more often than not, they got the 7-year-old and the 3-year-old. Now I would always say, well, what did you do when they were 4 and 1? Do that when they're 7 and 3. But it just somehow became entitled that I don't have to come to work. And so these kids went in, and they go in, and they log on to a computer. Well, that's not right. And so I think we have to, as leaders, make sure our middle managers are bringing those people home, to work, and they are there as well. Okay? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? People can decide. My view is it's at least 4. I will tell you this statistically, email traffic on Fridays in Canada declines up to 70%. So I'm assuming they're all reading a book that day because we're paying you. But some reason you don't have to be online that day. So we know productivity is declining. And again, that's a big problem in Canada.
I did say he had strong feelings about it, and I look forward to the next article in OBJ based on our conversation today.
I want to go for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, it's already being written. Just as we wrap up, Goldy, this has been a great conversation. I would just ask you to sort of reflect on what you hope and aspire. What should we aspire to? What do you hope will be our country, our city, if you were to look ahead a couple of years as a result of everything that we're grappling with right now?
I think we have all of the elements, all of the tools, whether in natural resources or in human resources, to absolutely win. And we should aspire to win, not be fourth, not be fourth, and say everybody gets a participant ribbon. I remember when the Harper government announced the Own the Podium campaign. And a lot of Canadians kind of went, well, we're hosting the games. Is that really the right thing to do, like win the medals? Because, people are our guests in Canada. I'm like, it's a competition. Of course I want to win. I want to see Canada on the podium. And believe me, the policy decisions that were made look something like this. Which athletes had the best chance to get on the podium? They got the most funding. They got the coaches from anywhere in the world, said, let's make sure the ski jumpers win, or the hockey team wins, or the triathlon people win.
Or the women's curling team
or
from
the
Ottawa
women's
that
curling
just won the
team
World
from Ottawa,
Championship.
of course, right?
Yeah.
Yay, Team Home. And then the other message to the others was, and if you want more support, work harder, do better, get stronger. Not, we're going to take $1 and give everybody 10 cents. And you know what happened in Vancouver? Of course you do. We won. We won the most medals, and since then we've now set out to go to these Olympics with the purpose of winning. I want that sports attitude from the Olympics and in hockey to become the attitude for our economy and our country, because there's no reason Canada cannot win. The only ones that have been getting in our way is us. So get out of it.
Excellent. Goldy, thank you for a great conversation. Thanks for all you're doing to advocate on behalf of business, but advocate on behalf of Canadians who want to see exactly what you're describing: a stronger, more resilient country, a stronger, more resilient economy, and thanks for being a community leader in our city as well. I really appreciate it. Goldy Hyder,
Thank you,
ladies and
everyone.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm using my radio voice today, just getting over a cold a little bit. Listen, Goldy, I really do want to thank you for taking the time here today. I was trying to reflect on what is it that I appreciate so much about when you speak, and I think it's the clarity of thought and your ability to identify the priorities that we need to take and the kind of the boldness of your statement. So I could go on, but that's what kind of really referred to me, Goldy. Thank you once again on behalf of the Mayor, the Board of Trade, and OBJ. I'm going to ask Sébastien Huard from Eamon Harnden. Is Sébastien with us? Here he is. Goldy will bring you up here and we'll present you with a little bit of a token of our appreciation. Yes, it's this. Yes. Thank you again, Goldy.